And today I am joined by, of course, so I'll let him introduce himself before we get into the agenda of the day.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Good morning, everyone. My name is Fred Buto. We're here with Tamara on Ask Siasa. Thank you.
That's definitely Karibu. Yeah. So today we're going to be asking, or our focus is going to be on the recommendations that, of course, the National Dialogue Committee gave about Kenyans, and the questions that we are asking, of course, is: was it a waste of taxpayers' money? Number two, uh, did the main agenda, which was supposed to be the cost of living that made people go to the streets for maandamano, was it addressed? Is it going to be addressed by some of the recommendations that were given? Are Kenyans looking at seeing themselves in a better state or in a devastated state in regards to the recommendations that were given by the National Dialogue Committee as well? But before we answer that, I'm going to bring you in and ask you. We had 10 points that were discussed. Of course, we're going to be going through them. But from your take on the proposal and the content that was in there, is it going to positively or negatively impact Kenyans, as well as positively or negatively impact these two political parties that were mandated to actually try and bring one voice to Kenya? But clearly, there's some disparities on the major reasons as to why they were there or they are there in the first place.
Thank you so much. I want to start by saying that these political party leaders need to acknowledge that Kenyans, we are diverse, and all of us need to be part and parcel of these governance issues. And when they involve themselves in dialoguing on issues affecting Kenyans, but at the end of the day, they only bring out issues which affect their lives, personal lives, only positively, it really doesn't make a big impact to the Kenyans. Yeah.
Okay, so now I think we can go into the 10 points, of course, that we saw them talk about. So first on the list, I just want your reaction. So I'm just going to mention, then you can give your reaction on it. And probably if you see it going to impact Kenyans or impact the cost of living for Kenyans. So the first one is the creation of the post of official opposition leader with 2 deputies.
On that, my point is that is political, that is not for all Kenyans. It's about sustaining or satisfying political ambitions, or rather the spaces which they needed to occupy after maybe losing an election or rather winning. Then they created offices for them to gain something in return, but it is not for all of us Kenyans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2 on the list, and even to our viewers, please feel free to comment on the comment section below your opinion on the issues that you're mentioning, as well as the conversation that we're having right here on Ask Siasa. So number 2 on the list, of course, we have entrenching the Prime Cabinet Secretary's office into law, which we know is actually already occupied.
That position is already occupied. It's only that they need to make it constitution, because whatever that the current Prime Minister office is only, it was an award to his political loyalist, to the president. So it is not constitution. So they want to make it constitutional, that it be official, to be legalized, that there should be an office of the Prime Minister who oversees these other cabinet secretaries.
Yeah. And so far, looking at Musalia, since Musalia Mudavadi, since he got into that position, is it a position that you feel is actually fit to constitutionalize?
To some extent, yes, it is, because cabinet has a lot of issues. So there should be somebody, of course, coordinating them before they reach to the president and the vice president in such a way. It is.
Okay.
But to it being constitutionalized, it is, again, it goes to personal interest of these politicians.
Okay. What is the gain?
The gain to the country or to the person?
To the person, to the politician.
The gain is obvious, because we taxpayers will have to cater for his well-being, and that is what most of them want. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Okay, there are some who are saying, there's this. There was a debate earlier on the fact that him being given this position, this particular position, is a way of the majority actually trying to secure the Western votes come the next general elections? Would that be something viable?
You see, election is a period which comes and goes. When Musela is the current prime minister, that does not guarantee him that in the next election, maybe his impact will be felt. Maybe in the next election, whoever will be vying for the presidency will have somebody else who is more powerful than Musela from the western region. Then in the process, that position goes. Yeah.
Okay, wanasema siasa venye inakuwa. Anyway, moving on, we have the evaluation of the 2022 electoral process. And okay, so you can give your opinion before I ask you now another question, a follow-up question.
I think the 2022 electoral process ended. Supreme Court made a verdict. I think it still doesn't make a sense to the Kenyans. Yeah.
And I'm asking, if they decide to evaluate this 2022 electoral process and all that, is it something that we could possibly see, or is it a means to actually also star Kenyans? Because every single elections, Kenyans have been having issues, you know. There has always been lazima kuna mtu atakufa mahali, lazima there's something that is going to be stolen, lazima we see maybe maandamano later on, a lot of looting and all that.
I think the best thing they were to say is electoral justice. It's not about reviewing the 2022 electoral process because that process ended. It was to be about electoral justice and what awaits Kenyans in the next election. That was to be important.
Okay. Number 4 on the list was extending the period for the presidential petition, that is from 14 days to 21 days.
At first, why should it be like there must be a presidential petition? Why should it be there? Because if the election has been done, the process has been done very well, and that is why we go back to number 3 on reviewing the electoral process. So if the process is good and a president has been elected, why should we review the 14 days to 21 days? I don't see why we should do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, number 4 on the list, of course, we know what has been happening in IBC for the longest time. So the other recommendation or the other argument was expanded IBC selection panel from the current 7 members to 9 members.
That is still political because it's about these 2 major political parties wanting their parties to be fully involved in that IBC panel, saying that in the process of choosing maybe those commissioners, they may have an hand.
Okay. Number 6 on the list, of course, cutting the government's travel budget by 50%.
Because that is good.
And
I know most of Kenyans will be impressed by that, because why should be somebody traveling now and again and again? Should be cut even to 20%, in fact, not 50. Yeah.
Okay. And with that, of course, these other recommendations that we have gone through, the question of the cost of living for Kenyans is actually...
It's not there.
It's not there.
It's not mentioned. And that is what basically we expected as Kenyans. So that tells us those people, when they were doing that dialogue, they were talking about their own interests, their political interests, not about the diverse Kenyans who are suffering.
And seeing that, of course, cutting the government's travel budget by 50%, is this in one way going to impact largely, or is it a small percentage of impact on the cost of living of Kenyans? Because definitely if they cut on expenditure, it means there is some money left to do 1 to 3 things for the common mwananchi.
Still, that money is a lot. The 50% should be reduced, as I said earlier, to even 20%. Such that this money that is on the top, the 80% on travel, should be converted to other issues which affect Kenyans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The other issue was, of course, sending at least 20% of revenue raised nationally to county governments, up from the current 15%.
The spirit of revolution, that is the 2010 constitution, was to have government services devolved. And so whatever revenue the government collects, I think much of it should be taken back to the counties. So that is a thumb for the
Okay. We also have the issue of reduction of allocations to hospitals, to hospitality and office general supplies by 50%.
It doesn't get well with me.
Okay, okay. Should I repeat that or we move on?
We move on.
We move on.
Yeah.
Another issue, of course, that has been disturbing Kenyans a lot, of course, is the cost of living, is the cost of fuel. I mean, the country, despite the recent reduction by 2 shillings for diesel and kerosene, with petrol still remaining where it is, of course, also factoring in the oil expose and the back and forth between Raila, between Kimani Ichung'wah as well, between the president on matters oil. The issue of slashing the road maintenance levy, that is RMLF, from 18 to 13%, and the anti-adulteration levy from 18 to 15%.
It's good. It's good for Kenyans. Yeah, because basically, for any economy to run well, the exportation, or rather how the oil impact, how oil is used in that country, like fuel, because everything is about fuel. If you want to get something, you must use fuel. So if they reduce that from 18% to 13%, it's good for us Kenyans, because we use fuel in doing everything. So if they reduce the cost of that by reducing the levy from 18% to 13%, it is good for us.
Okay. Also as Kenyans, people are asking, shouldn't it be lower? Go back to 8%.
You see that there is a progress, at least there is a slight
reduction.
decline. Yeah.
Okay.
From 18 to 13 it's not bad, but of course we need more lesser from 13, maybe to even 10, 8 and such, like, because if again it goes down, it means we are working on subsidies, which the current government is against.
Yeah.
And of course, which is good for all of us. Yeah.
And of course, if we look at, so those are some of the points, of course, among others that were discussed or that were agreed upon by the National Dialogue Committee. Now, of course, we had different leaders. The moment this report came out, we had different leaders, different people, even as a common mwananchi, give their opinion as well as give their comments in regards to what has been. And of course, from the common mwananchi, the major question was, where is the cost of living? Where has the cost of living gone to, considering the fact that we saw even earlier on the likes of Martha Karua stating that if the cost of living is not addressed,
it will not append us.
Yes, then that is not going to happen. And with what you have seen so far now, hayo ni maneno ambayo tunaona yataishia tu kuwa maneno, ama tunaona pia akiwa vitendo, kwa sababu tumeona clearly from what is there.
From what we have seen in this our country, those are just words which don't really come to order, because at the end of the day, those people knew exactly what they were going to discuss in the committee, and those as new people were there. The Kenya Kwanza, of course, the government was there. So basically, they knew what they went there to do. To the extent of even writing a report such that it is going to be submitted now to the principals, it means they are discussing those details. Avoiding, I think, the issue of cost of living, it was intentional, or rather, it didn't bring any sense to them. As long as their interest was served, as the position of the opposition leader has been created, the deputies are there, and such like issues. So, to them, I think it is just what, because I saw when Wamalwa say, I will not append my signature, I will not receive allowances. And he was there while the report was being discussed, it was being written. So you see, it doesn't make any sense to Kenyans.
But do you think, like, at that point, the whole essence was that people to come sit down and talk? Do you feel like even with the likes of Wamalwa, when your states are displeased in what they have actually agreed upon, of course he himself stating that they've let Kenyans down, do you feel, how impactful were they in the decisions that were being agreed on? Because as far as I know, with my little knowledge, I know it was just let's sit down, talk, whatever we talk on, we report.
I think they were to sit down, talk on issues affecting Kenyans. And number one issue, of course, which is disturbing Kenyans, all of us, is the cost of living.
No.
And that was the major issue which they were to discuss, before they bring their interest, their political interest to the space.
Mhm.
But again, when they went there, they sat, they discussed, I don't know, they forgot or they assumed, they discussed those issues and avoided the cost of living. Maybe, in my assumption or maybe in my thinking, I can assume maybe they thought like if we cut maybe the travel expenditure by 50%, we have reduced the cost of living.
Mhm.
If we reduce the fuel levy from 18% to 13%, we have reduced the cost of living. If we add more money to the governments, we have reduced the cost of living. Of course, maybe it can bring some other meaning inside there, but basically that issue of the cost of living, how they're going to bring it down, it has not been explained well fully, and that is why maybe Wamalo is saying he feels they have disappointed Kenyans. Of course they have, because he was there. And that is what they were even fighting for before that committee was formed.
Mhm.
And that is why they were even doing the mandamanos before the president and the former prime minister said, let's sit and talk. So they have to talk about the issue of cost of living and not creating positions, such like issues.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we saw, of course, there are people who stated that, or therefore had the assumption that the national dialogue talks are going to fail or going to collapse, are not going to be fruitful to anyone. And this is one thing that Kimani Ichung'wah also mentioned, linking it to past state captures that were hell bent on scuttling the talks, you know. But now, in your personal opinion, with the talks having happened, of course, do you or are they something that could bring peace to Kenya, considering the fact that we have seen Azimio la Umoja as well as Kenya Kwanza actually agreeing on a number of things that one, of course, touch on electoral justice, as you talked about, which is, we cannot say it's a minor issue in Kenya because we've seen what happened in
Yeah, sure.
2007 and all other years after every elections, as well as also on the issues of the cost of living, as per what you explained, probably by reducing the fuel levy and all other things.
I think the issues that were raised and discussed as concerned to the previous recommendations, partly I can say the dialogue committee achieved something, because for the well-being of Kenyans, and not all Kenyans, of course, but these political class individuals, say that after an election, we don't have such many issues, because it is those issues that even remake the kind of lifestyle that we live go up. Maybe at the end of the day, after that report has been signed by those parties, all of them, I think we will have a change. There will be a change, especially in the political space. But in the social space and economic, we still have a long way to go.
And to our viewers, of course, remember, Ask Siasa is all about your opinion on matters happening, matters politics, matters governance, as well as the state of the nation, what is happening in your country, Kenya, what is happening in East Africa, Africa, and the world at large. Now, of course, our question today was based on the things or the issues that were agreed upon by the National Dialogue Committee. And the question that we are asking, or we are posing to Kenyans, is, are you satisfied with what your leaders, or with what the leaders that were selected to actually represent the needs of the Kenyans, or to represent these talks, brought forth or brought to the table? Are you satisfied with that? If not, what are some of the recommendations that you think or that you feel as a Kenyan would have or should have been in place? So thank you so much for joining us on Ask Siasa. Of course, we keep it short and sweet, and we're going to leave you with this particular video just to keep you up to tabs in case you missed out on what the national dialogue. Okay, my producer doesn't have the video, but it's okay, guys. We'll leave you at this point, of course, but we are saying thank you so much for joining us on Ask Siasa. Remember, Ask Siasa is all about your opinion.
Makofi ya kilo.
Okay, this is a joint press statement by the National Dialogue Committee delegation leaders at the unveiling of the Nadco report today, 25th November 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Kenyans, in the history of our great nation, Kenya, the people have always had the great resolve to face all challenges that occasion from time to time. With great courage and in the spirit of truth, unity, brotherhood, nationhood, and patriotism, the people of Kenya always emerge as the winners. On this 25th day of November 2023, the National Dialogue Committee, established through a parliamentary process of the people's representation, is proud to midwife to the people of the Republic of Kenya the Nadco 2023 report. We are indeed proud to unveil the National Dialogue Committee's report, which has been electronically submitted to the principals representing both the Kenya Kwanza and Azimio la Umoja leadership. It is our firm belief that the report has addressed the issues that form the basis of the talks, and the recommendations therein will progressively heal our wounds, foster togetherness, promote national unity, restore our national pride, and usher us to greater national prosperity. We have a wish to admit that the journey preceding this joyous occasion has not been easy. We have weathered many storms that threaten the very fabric of our national unity. We have endured the tumultuous cycles of violence that marred our aspirations and hindered our collective progress. The scars of our past, etched in the loss of lives, the devastation of property, and the crippling blows to our economy, served as milestones that mark the seasons of our collective national travail. Throughout this process, concessions have been made or were made. Entrenched positions were relinquished, but unwavering dedication to the welfare of our beloved nation prevailed. We have placed Kenya above personal ambitions, recognizing that our people's unity and our nation's prosperity are paramount. Kenyans, through the stakeholder engagements, added their voices to what ails us as a nation, and the pathways that would bring us to a place of national healing and reconciliation, which is the spirit of the report that we are launching today and its recommendations. Our journey towards redemption has been guided by a resolute commitment to rebuilding not just physical structures, but the very essence of our nationhood. Together, we have embraced the virtues of unity, togetherness, and love, recognizing that our duty transcends political affiliations. It extends to safeguarding the prosperity and the well-being of every Kenyan. The essence of our unity lies not in fighting over our differences, but in transcending them, in understanding that our diversity is a cornerstone of our strength. We stand firm in our belief that political contestations should and must never be a catalyst for animosity or hatred in our great nation, Kenya. Instead, they should serve as avenues for constructive and continuous dialogue, where differing ideologies converge in pursuit of the greater good of Kenyans. The report that we are presenting to the nation today is a product of compromises forged in the crucible of shared sacrifice and unwavering patriotism. It signifies a commitment to forging a path forward that embraces inclusivity, justice, and progress for all Kenyans. Let us solemnly pledge to uphold the values of brotherhood and sisterhood, to nurture a culture of love, and to safeguard the unity that defines us as a nation. Our prayer for the nation is that we find multiplicity and not division in our diversities, be they ideological, ethnic, political, or religious. May these days stand as a testament to our collective resolve to chart a new course for Kenya, one that embodies the true spirit of patriotism, unity, and our progress. I will now, with all respect, welcome my co-chair, His Excellency Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, to read through our recommendations.
Thank you. And now our recommendations. The committee has been able to build consensus on a majority of issues. However, there is a divergent opinion on a few issues that have been referred to the leadership of the two coalitions for further consideration. To this end, the National Dialogue Committee has resolved the following amongst others. Number one, electoral justice and related matters. A, audit of the 2022 electoral process. Nadco has recommended the evaluation of the 2022 electoral process. B, restructuring and reconstitution of the IEBC. Nadco has recommended the establishment of an expanded selection panel from the current 7-member to a 9-member selection panel. C, time for resolution of presidential election petitions. Nadco recommends the increase of timelines within which the Supreme Court shall hear and determine a petition challenging the validity of a presidential election from 14 days to 21 days. D, electoral legal reforms. Nadco has recommended that legal reforms passed less than 18 months to the general elections become effective in the next electoral cycle. On cost of living, gharama ya maisha. A, Nadco recommends that all arms of government shall reduce their travel budgets by 50% and that the Salaries and Remuneration Commission review daily subsistence allowances for state and public officers with a view to reducing by 30%. B, Nadco recommends the Minister of Energy and Petroleum in liaison with the National Treasury to reduce the road maintenance levy and the anti-adulteration levy by 5 shillings and 3 shillings per litre, respectively. C, Nadco recommends that the national government finalizes the transfer of all devolved functions and provides for the concomitant resources to the county governments. D, Nadco recommends that Parliament shall amend the Constitution to provide for the equitable share to the county governments not to be less than 20% of all revenue collected by the national government from the current 15%. However, the committee was unable to reach a consensus on a number of other proposals on the matter of cost of living, including the reduction of VAT on fuel from 16% to 8%, and scrapping the housing levy. These twin issues are contained in the Finance Act 2023, I beg your pardon. Number 3, entrenching of funds into the Constitution. Nadco recommends the entrenchment of NGCDF, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, GAF, and the Senate Oversight Fund. B, Nadco further recommends the Ward Development Fund to be established by statute. Number 4, establishment and entrenchment of state offices. A, Nadco recommends the establishment of the office of the leader of the official opposition, who is the leader of the largest party or the leader of a coalition of political parties that garnered the second greatest number of votes in the immediately preceding presidential elections, with 2 deputies. B, Nadco further recommends the establishment of the office of the Prime Minister to be nominated and, upon approval by the National Assembly, appointed by the President. 5, fidelity to the law on multi-party democracy. Nadco recommends the establishment of the Independent Political Parties Regulatory Commission as an independent body that shall be responsible for the registration of political parties and their office holders and the management of political parties' funds, a role currently vested in the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Kenyans, as the curtain falls on Nadco and the country continues on its journey of nation building, it was an honor for all men and women in this room who were called upon to step up and serve their mother country, their country in its hour of need. On their behalf and of this delegation, we wish to acknowledge the commitment and dedication of the committee members, the able technical teams that I think I have another one. The able technical teams okay, let me just do the acknowledgement bit again. The National Dialogue Committee wishes to thank the party leaders of the Kenya Kwanza Alliance and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition for their exceptional display of patriotism and statesmanship that established the National Dialogue Committee with the objective of addressing issues of concern to the people of Kenya. The committee also expresses its gratitude to the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate, as well as the offices of the Clerk of the National Assembly and the Clerk of the Senate, for the support extended to the committee in the execution of its mandate. The committee further extends its appreciation to the Electoral Governance Institute for Africa, commonly referred to as ALGIA, for the support accorded to the committee. And Felix, if you're in the room, thank you very much. This is a gentleman who has been able to pay for our lunches, not Kimani Echungwa, as he wants, and conferencing as well. So don't go for Kimani's jugular. The committee also acknowledges the members of the public and the various institutions and organizations that appeared before the committee or submitted memoranda. Their submissions played a significant role in shaping the deliberations and the recommendations of this committee. The committee also benefited immensely from the technical teams from both parties to the dialogue committee, as well as the secretariat from the Parliamentary Service Commission, who worked tirelessly with the committee throughout this process. The committee wishes to acknowledge members of the public who have continued to keenly follow the proceedings of this committee, and the media, wonderful people, stakeholders, who ensured that the country remained updated at all times. It is now our pleasant duty and privilege, on behalf of the National Dialogue Committee, to present the report of the committee, which, as Kimani said, will already be, if it is not already happened, be transmitted electronically to the two coalition leaders. I thank you. Na kama kuna mtu mwenye swali, dakika moja tu, if it is indeed in order, because you have conducted deliberations in a very open and transparent manner. Kama kuna mtu mwenye swali, anaweza kuuliza. Tumeelewana. Thank you. Actually, we honestly, and it was my special request, those young men and ladies you see sitting across there, they are the ones who have delivered this report. And we really would want to keep a record of this as the country moves forward. We really appreciate you for your professionalism. Yeah, by the way, the full report itself will be a matter, what you have just given is a press statement. The details will be available